Morning. Habari za asubuhi. Thank you everybody for coming. Today we'll be having a couple of panel discussions, Swahili Society America, in collaboration with the Prince George's Census Complete County Committee. We'll be presenting an education seminar. So our first panel discussion will be about Swahili culture and census. We have Dr. Leonard Mwaka. Dr. Leonard Mwaka, may you come over? Dr. Mwaka is a linguist professor at Howard University. We have Dr. Nicholas Boaz, our daddy, our father, and the only one. May you come over, bro? Dr. Boaz is a professor at University of District of Columbia. We have Miss Nema Orari. She's a mental health professional at Adventist Behavior Health. And before we proceed, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Elvis Dana, a representative from African Diaspora Region Office of the Prince George's County Executive. Thank you, Mr. Elvis, for coming. And also, I would like to acknowledge Ms. John Oport, the co-founder and CEO of African for Mental Health and a representative from Governor's Council. So, Ms. John Oport, she's Kenyan. She works at that great office. So we have people from the Governor's Council, PG Council, so we're gonna have a great time, great knowledge. We come here to learn, network, and most of all, we have to understand the importance of census. As we know, census only happens once in 10 years. So it's very important we understand and we listen to Mr. Elvis Dana, who will be accompanied with Thomas F. Johnson, too. He's from Office of Community Relations, Census 2020 Project Lead. So, the first panel. Welcome, guys.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Habari za asubuhi na za jiji hili la Washington kwa ujumla, safi kabisa. Kwa hivyo kama mlivyoelezwa, jina langu ni Leonard Mwaka. Ninafundisha Kiswahili na isimu katika chuo kikuu cha Howard. Nafikiri labda lugha ya kutumiwa ni Kiingereza. Yeah, safi kabisa. Okay. Nitachanganya basi, nimeambiwa nitumie ile tunaita code switching. So what I'm going to do here is basically to speak as a linguist, because this is what I know and this is what I've been trained to do. Swahili language is one of the many languages that we have in this world. We have about 6,000 languages. Of course, Swahili comes from Africa, and by virtue of that, you're talking about 2,035 languages in Africa. Swahili falls within the group of what we call the Bantu languages. We have about 500 of these languages, spreading all the way from Cameroon all the way to South Africa. However, within this larger family, we also find ourselves within a region that has to operate with languages of wider communication. Swahili therefore becomes that central and important point of convergence for East and Central Africa. coming to that level, you're going to find that Swahili has over 120 million speakers. So the idea of census is actually very important because we get to know what languages are we using. We may have speakers who have more than one language, which is a very common phenomenon in Africa. So multilingualism is what we know thrives in Africa. When you come to the US, if you are one of the people who came here voluntarily, you'll see that you have more than one language. But the critical point is Swahili has played a critical role even during liberation movements. You look at Tanzania, for example, Swahili is what actually promoted the Ujamaa ideology. And without Swahili, I don't think Ujamaa would have thrived. So when we see that, and when we go back, you look at the 1905, if you remember history, we had what we called Maji Maji Rebellion. So the belief that if we unite under one language, we can actually create a very powerful and strong defense system worked for the Tanzanians who are fighting the Germans. And because of that, even though it was a belief in something that was quite different, you see that Kinja Ketile was able to convince different people that if you're one, you're going to win. So Swahili becomes a critical tool, not only as a resource, but also as something that has what we call identity. So your language and identity becomes critical. We know, as I said already, that we speak so many languages. But because of Swahili, it doesn't matter where you come. You may come from Congo, you may come from Tanzania, you may come from Kenya, you may come from Uganda, wherever Swahili is spoken. But the moment you're here, you realize that this other person is like you. And in a lot of ways, this is why scholars like Maulana Karenga from California, an African American, was able to use Swahili to mobilize other people who then believed in what we now call Kwanzaa. The ideals and the tenets of that particular ideology do use Swahili terminology. And therefore it has become a powerful tool, especially, as I said, how do we identify ourselves? Having come here many years ago, African Americans tried to find who are we? And one of the ways we can do this is by using Swahili to really unite us. Very recently, you've seen a lot of calls for Swahili to be used within the continent of Africa. A lot of people are using it. South Africa, Ghana. In fact, one of my students who is in Ghana tells me they have about 700 students studying Swahili in Ghana. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you there's so many people who want to study Swahili. And just yesterday again, I was talking to somebody who says they want a Swahili instructor to help them teach on a voluntary basis Swahili within the DC area. These are very critical points, and this is a critical time for Swahili because not only is the East African region advocating for Swahili, but the entire continent is doing so. And beyond the continent, we are some of us are here in the US because of Swahili. In the US, there will be over 100 institutions that teach Swahili. It is the thriving, it is the thriving language that actually, the thriving African language that is taught. Let me speak about Howard. Howard has a very strong Swahili program, for example. It is in the Department of World Languages, which I chair. You'll find that Swahili will be the third most important language in terms of enrollments. What does that mean? It means, therefore, we have funding that comes from the federal government, the university has to hire more people, and we get to have students who will go to East Africa to continue improving their proficiency in the language. What does that do to the economy of East Africa? It improves that economy. Because if we have, for example, Fulbright taking 15 students from across the nation, and each is paying about roughly an average of $8,000. So 8 times 15, I leave it to the mathematicians, you'll see that there's a lot of money that goes in directly. And then when the students go there, they will be buying things from local traders. They will be traveling to other places. They improve the economy of our countries. There will be also another group that will come maybe from Princeton, from another university. All of this adds to what is going to improve our economy. So that is something we hardly talk about. When we talk about tourism, we are only thinking of who are these people coming. We forget that there are students who are learning this language, and someday they're the ones who are going to teach the language. So my plea to those of us who know Swahili and who can speak Swahili, it is that we should, in fact, begin with our heritage learners. These are the young kids who are born here, and they're going to be speaking this language, and someday it will give them a place in terms of their career, but they're also going to influence policies on how African countries view our African languages. Incidentally, we tend to belittle our languages. We always think of French, we think of Spanish, we think of these other languages, which is an ideology of privileging those languages and forgetting that our own language is a powerful tool. I think some of you know, if you studied Swahili, you know of somebody called Shaban Robert. Yeah. He said a very powerful tool, phrase that titi la mama litamu japo nilambwa. I'm just paraphrasing that. That means even though you may belittle your own, it is still the one thing that you'll go back to no matter where you are. So for me, in terms of culture, we have to remember that Swahili is in itself carrying the culture of many other cultures of African region. Why? Because Swahili has borrowed from these other languages. These other languages have enriched Swahili. There has always been this wrong impression that Swahili is a mixed language, that it is an offshoot of Arabic. That's a very wrong impression, and if you have anybody who thinks so, please correct them, tell them no. Swahili is a Bantu language. It has borrowed, like English has borrowed from Latin, from French, from Greek, whatever it is. That is how we should look at Swahili. It borrowed because there was influence from these other cultures in terms of writing. And because of that, in fact, if you didn't know, we began writing in Swahili using the Arabic script. And that didn't mean that therefore Swahili was Arabic. No, it is just the script. And many languages did that, including Hausa, including these other languages that were influenced by Islamic or by people who came in with the Islamic religion. So we have just to be careful how we present our language. Swahili therefore becomes a unifying language. No one can claim it is on his own. I mean, we can all say it is our language. But also let us remember that then those who will call Swahili as a first language, the native language, they are the people who initially were called the Wangozi from the coastal region of East Africa. And we have about 18 dialects of Swahili, which are were named because of the cities around there, around where these people were coming from. But because of that kind of what we call standardization, which took place during the colonialism, we have the standard Swahili. So what we need to do and remember is there are actually speakers who may number about 4 million. Those are the ones who are born speaking Swahili. The other people will be born bilingual or multilingual, or rather will grow into a community that is multilingual, and then they will acquire this language naturally, and that is important for us. So as we look at what we are doing, I want us to remember that, as I mentioned, that Swahili is a language that we should cherish, we should work to promote, because others are going to do so. But working with, say, for example, the counties or the government, our embassies, we should be able to put it at par with this other language. It's a critical language, no matter how we look at it. It is a language that we can teach our children the cultures of our people. It is therefore a language I ask all of us to pay attention to, and if there's any resource that we can help, including those who are in institutions, those who want to begin heritage language learning classes, let's sit together and define a way to be able to do this in a more progressive manner. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I guess we're getting to noon now. It's 11:45. Thank you for coming. And I want to say it's a good day when we can meet and interact and try to learn from each other. I think it's a pretty good thing. This is a timely seminar. And when I think about Elvis, I think I talked with you the other time when we were with Libe. Yeah, when I was with Libe in his car, we talked about this program. And I think to a great extent, census is part of culture. I think you mentioned in passing here. And I want to tie this, see how these relate. And I probably would say, in order for any person to be able to interact effectively, you need to learn about other people as other people's culture as you meet, so you can be a little bit sensitive and try to move away from being ethnocentric, which means from being biased. So as we interact, we get to know one another and minimize those differences, because that's the key in really being an effective communicator, that you have to embrace and try to listen carefully and understand where they're coming from, and then you may be able to respond now in a way that it brings meaning and it brings really understanding, because you have listened well by paying attention to what is being said, and then you're able to respond effectively by addressing what has been said. Now, let me begin now by really defining here what is culture, and then I'll get into cultural diversity here. I do have a handout here that says, for example, culture is the way we do things. How do we do things? Based on the values that have been passed to us by relatives, parents, the elders in the community, and through the experience and through the media. So culture does organize us in a way of how then we can preserve those values and beliefs that we think identify us, who we are. So here, I'll just read this very quickly. Culture is that which shapes us. It shapes our identity and influences our behavior. That's a key now. If your behavior is influenced by your culture. We know, for example, those who come from Swahili-speaking, countries, and basically even people from like Kenya, Tanzania, whatever, they speak their Swahili. You can see that there are some of the things that within using Kiswahili, we apply some of the cultures of being, for example, polite, okay, of respecting the elders in the community. We do that, even though you would say that traditional Africa does that. But of course, Swahili does depict that, does show that. I give an example, and this, sometimes I do observe a lot. When you go like to, and here like in America, we go to an American home, something like that. At times, kids will not get up the chair to leave that chair for an elder. And you can see that back in our African nation, in Swahili countries, Kenya, Uganda, whatever. You go in their homes, the kids will just move quickly and leave that chair for an elder. So that's the culture. So that was the cultural value that has been passed there by their parents. So culture shapes our behavior, the way we need to interact with other people. Now, here is a problem. For example, once we have to be very careful that we don't want to be ethnocentric, that our culture is the best than any other culture. Because speakingly, truly, is that culture is the best way it is. The American culture is best right here. Okay, Tanzanian culture is best in Tanzania. Kenyan culture, Ugandan, Rwanda is best where it is. There's an element in between there, these different cultures, that because we need to interact, this world is coming very smaller now. We're interacting every day. There's a term that is used in communication that is titled intercultural communication. And simply, that area of study teaches people to be respectful to other cultures. Try to understand how they do things. Okay? In understanding how they do things, then you're going to be better in terms of inching and interacting with them. And especially, for example, if you do business. America is a country that is really business oriented. Within that intercultural communication, these advertisers tend to go to these countries to learn how people interact. How do they do things? They learn some words. They are smart simply because they want to make business. They don't want to go and, of course, offend people in those countries, offend their cultural values, because they want to get those people to get into the business. Now, I've seen many commercials here in America where you have a lot of Swahili words being used, okay? But these are the people, these advertisers must have gone to Kenya or Tanzania, Uganda to learn what they mean. So when they take that advertisement back to those countries, people feel that they are being respected. And for that matter, they may get into buying those items that they bring over there. So Swahili right there is critical, as Mwaka said, in terms of really expanding business orientation or whatever, that it can be meaningful to both the advertisers and those who live in those countries. So pretty much that I would say that's one of the benefits of really being able to learn and understand the Swahili culture. And I'll piggyback again to what he said. We need really to teach for me, it will be our grandchildren here, that they know Swahili, because it's going to be a plus in their lives, you know. And not only that, because they can be experts in terms of transmitting this knowledge to those who want to learn Kiswahili. Those who want to go maybe to these East African countries where they speak Swahili, so they're able to interact and make sense of what's going on. I think that's the key. Now, I know Liebe has written some of the things like values. Values are good because we're based on our values, how we welcome people in our home, how we speak with people from different cultures, whatever. And Swahili does accommodate that in terms of really respecting people and just being nice to them. There are these terms. I'm sorry, I'm going to be. There are these terms that if you study language, because I'll tell you what, language is culture and culture's language. Okay, language is communication and communication is language, because all this revolves around the values and the beliefs. I come from, I'm an expert in, that's what I studied anyway, communication and media and politics. I came out of Harvard. And it's a great platform there when you really go to see how these languages, and as you say, they teach a lot of language in those schools. And a lot of universities in America do teach Kiswahili and the other languages. I know that. Why? Because, simple again, that's part of how to ease that interaction, where people don't have to be biased, ethnocentric, like my culture is the best than yours. Okay? Right now, all of us here who come from different countries here, okay? There's a dominant culture here. That's Anglo-Saxon. That's English culture. I mean, the language and all these things. It's a dominant culture. So we have to follow the dominant culture, even though we are from other countries. For us to interact effectively with the people who live here, we have to learn how they do things. There's no way. We have to learn and be able to interact effectively, whether we are in class or whether we are doing business or we are socializing. You have to recognize that dominant culture. But that does not mean you have to discard your culture. No. You're right there in the forefront there, embracing the American culture. It's Anglo-Saxon, English culture, whatever. But as we go home or meet in our communities like this, what do? We speak Swahili. We preserve our identity, because you don't want to lose your identity, all right? You're Kenyan and everybody. Yeah. Got to remember that. So the culture, in a way, then, helps us as we get into this intercultural communication to be sensitive and be aware. There are people from different cultures. And it doesn't mean the dominant English culture is best than your Kenyan culture or Tanzanian culture. No. It's just you're gonna want to feel good and feel that I'm great because I'm speaking English, but English is not the language all over the world that people speak. I mean that's not their traditional language. They have different. So we have to learn these and be careful, because we know those who are tend to discriminate people tend to use their language. They don't know how to speak English, whatever. So what if I don't know how to speak English? Does it demean who I am? So those kind of elements, they tend to be discriminatory, need to be really avoided. So we need to go and really embrace cultural values, and where now the cultural diversity fits in there, where then people can interact, get to know one another, and that's cultural diversity. How can you work together? So there are a lot of benefits. These from different countries bring knowledge, bring skills, So I think it's a plus thing to have these to learn about this cultural diversity that can really enhance our being here as the people. Thank you very much.
Well, it's going to be hard to follow after Dr. Mwaka and Dr. Boaz, but I'll give it a shot here. As was mentioned earlier, I have a background in mental health, and I'd like to take some time to talk a little bit about mental health. As some of you may know, or have experienced, coming from East African culture, coming from Africa overall, mental health is something that we do not give priority to. There are a lot of thoughts and beliefs that mental health issues or mental health illness are illnesses that are primarily in the Western world, right? That people in Africa don't experience mental health. But I've come to find great interest in mental health and in realizing that it's something that, as a people, as a culture, as a continent, it's something that we need to pay attention to for many reasons. Research has shown over the past few years that neuropsychiatric disorders, meaning mental health disorders, they form about 19% of the global disease burden. And so when you think of in the entire world how many people are, the sicknesses and the diseases that are in the world, 19% of the people that are, of all those diseases are formulated by psychiatric diseases and mental health illnesses. And that is a huge number, for especially when you consider that, our whole continent, goes without acknowledging mental health or psychiatric illnesses. And so this is something that, over the years, it's becoming, as you probably have, are becoming more aware that people are hearing a little bit more about it, but it's definitely something that we are very far behind as a continent and as individual countries, that speak Swahili, right? Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, all the Eastern African countries and all the other additional countries, Congo, Ethiopia, South Africa, all these other countries that speak Swahili. And for example, depression alone is expected to rise from fourth to second leading cause of global disease burden. So when you consider how many things or how many diseases or illnesses, depression itself is a huge part of that, and it's also one of the leading causes of death because people end up becoming suicidal, and then end up going because of lack of support, lack of resources, they end up committing suicide. And there are a lot of reasons why sisi kama, so I'm going to switch languages because I think all of us has been speaking English. So pardon me if I, mix it up a little bit. Lakini kuna sababu nyingi sana ambazo zinatusababisha sisi kama Waafrika kutokuweza kuangalia magonjwa ya kisaikolojia na kuangalia mental health katika kwa undani zaidi. And some of those reasons ni moja is some of those sababu hizo ni just kuwa na ignorance kuhusu how much watu wana experience magonjwa ya kiakili, ya kisaikolojia. Tunadhani kwamba ni vitu ambavyo viko mbali sana. Lakini mimi, for example, wakati nakuwa, nilikuwa, pamoja na kwamba nilikuwa, ni mtoto wa kawaida tu, nimekulia Dar es Salaam, nimeishi, na familia yangu nzima, so wazazi wetu wamehangaika, wanafanya kazi kwa bidii kutusomesha na nini. Lakini ni vitu ambavyo nilikuwa naviona katika wenzangu wakati tuko shuleni, na wenzangu ambao labda wamepitia matatizo mbalimbali, wazazi wamefariki labda au wamepata ajali, kitu kimewatokea, wanapitia depression, wanapitia huu msongamano wa mawazo, lakini hawapati msaada wa aina yoyote. Kwa hiyo unakuta watu tu tunateseka ndani bila kujua na bila kuelewa kwamba kwanza tunavyopitia ni vitu vya kawaida na ni kitu ambacho tungeweza kupata msaada, tungeweza kupata mtu ambaye anaweza kutusikiliza. Huku Marekani, of course, hata nchi nyingine tu, not just Marekani, lakini in the Western world specifically, wameweka resources nyingi sana ambazo watu wanaweza kupata ili kuweza kupata msaada wakipitiwa na hayo matatizo. Lakini kule kwetu hivyo vitu havipo. Kwa hiyo unakuta watu wanapitia tu hizo shida, na kwa sababu culture yetu inajaribu kueleza kwa nini unapitia hivyo vitu. Wanasema labda wewe huna nguvu, labda wewe ni unajua mawazo yako unatakiwa just huna shida. Watu hawaelewi vizuri kwamba wait, hichi ni kitu ambacho ni cha kweli, hichi ni kitu ambacho kinasumbua, hichi ni kitu ambacho kinaweza kusababisha wewe uchukue maisha yako. And that's ni mfano mmoja tu. Lakini kitu kingine ni kwamba watu ambao wana magonjwa ya kiakili, so sio sana labda depression na vitu ambavyo tunaweza kuishi tukaendelea navyo katika community, right? Kwa sababu kuna wengine ambao wana magonjwa ya kiakili ambayo yanawazuia kabisa kuishi maisha ya kawaida. Na hao ambao wanapitia hayo mambo wanakuwa stigmatized, alafu wanatengwa kwa sababu hamna mtu anajua jinsi ya kukaa nao, jinsi ya kuwatunza. Ndio unajua watu wanaishia kwenye mental health institutions ambazo ziko kule nyumbani, ambazo zinakuwa hazina mfumo mzuri ambao unaweza kweli kuwapa msaada ambao wanahitaji. So na ningependa kuendelea kuongea zaidi kuhusu haya, lakini najua wakati tunavyozidi kuongea, wakati tunapoingia kwenye hii panel ya 3 ya domestic violence, nadhani hivi vitu vitagusiwa pia, lakini kwa sababu ya muda inabidi ni cut it short. But nilikuwa nataka just kuwasitizia na kuwashauri na just encourage kwamba wakati tunavyoishi, sisi tunaishi huku nje, ni muhimu sana kukumbuka kwamba nyumbani, haya matatizo yapo. Tuna experience huku, na saa nyingine tunasema kwamba okay, tunaleta belief zetu na stigma zetu huku, right? Kwamba okay, watu hii sio kitu ambacho kiko serious sana, sio kitu ambacho watu wanapitia au mimi napitia, unajua unadharau, lakini watu wanateseka na mambo ya depression, wanateseka na mambo ya magonjwa ya kisaikolojia, na wakati tuko huku nje ni muhimu kwamba tuelewe kwamba ni not just sisi wenyewe tunapitia na watu ambao wanatuzunguka, lakini watoto wetu wanapitia pia. Unajua kitu ambacho tunajifunza kwenye saikolojia ni kwamba mahitaji ya watu yanatofautiana kadri yanabadilika kadri mahitaji yanavyozidi kutimizwa. Kwa hiyo inaitwa Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So that's just one format ambayo inaeleza jinsi ambavyo mahitaji yetu yapo. Lakini moja ya mahitaji ambayo wanadamu tunahitaji tukishapata mahitaji yetu ya kimwili, chakula, nyumba, mavazi, protection, ni mahitaji ya kisaikolojia, which is ni self-esteem na mtu watu kukupenda na kukusupport. And so hayo mahitaji watoto wetu watakuja wanayapitia. Kwa hiyo ni muhimu kama sisi kama wazazi tunajua kwamba okay, sisi tulitoka labda nyumbani, tulikuwa hatuna vitu ambavyo tunavihitaji. Kwa hiyo tunahangaika sana hapa kuwapa watoto wetu kila kitu, lakini hatukai nao, hatuwapi muda, hatuongei nao, hatuwaulizi shule iko vipi, wanaendeleaje, hatuchukulii umuhimu mahitaji yao ya kisaikolojia. Na ndio hapo sasa ambapo mara nyingi sisi kama generation ya kwanza inaweza kuja kupotea kirahisi, kwa sababu tunawaacha katika mazingira ambayo hawatunzwi na mazingira ambayo kisaikolojia wanapata msaada kutoka kwa watu wengine, kutoka kacha zingine. Kwa hiyo wanapoteza yale maadili ambayo sisi kama jamii ambayo na wazazi unataka sana watoto wako wawe namna fulani, lakini umewalea huku na kwa sababu hukuchukua muda labda kuwajaza vitu ambavyo na kuwa nao kwa karibu, wanapoteza yale maadili, wanapoteza ile direction ambayo mngependa watoto wako wawe nayo. Lakini kwa that's just a few things ambazo nilikuwa nataka kusema. Najua tumeishiwa na muda, lakini just wanted to kuwaeleza na encourage na kuambia kwamba ni jambo ambalo ni la muhimu, na kama humjachukua muda kusoma na kulitafanyia utafiti, lifanyeni utafiti if anything kwa niaba ya watoto wenu, na generation ya watoto ambao tunawakuza huku Marekani ambao wanalelewa huku nje. Nashukuruni sana.
Welcome to Swahili Society America Questions and Answers.
Thank you so much for the presentation in terms of understanding the Swahili culture and the values that we have instilled in our communities and how we can maintain those good cultures, and also how we can educate other people about the Swahili culture. So my question is for Dr. Mwaka. You mentioned that there's a lot of people who are learning the Swahili language and there's resources available. Can you speak more in terms of the education component, those who are interested in going to college, pursuing their bachelor's degree or their master's degree? Are there federal resources or in-campus resources that are available for those who want to take those courses, and what does that look like?
So thank you for that great question. Yes, as I said, we have resources available. All institutions that offer Swahili will admit students sometimes at zero level, or when they come in, we do what we call placement test or proficiency testing. In other words, we want to determine where is this person. For the students who are heritage learners, some of us do have children and therefore they learn the language at home informally. But when they come, we do admit them, and we integrate them into the system in ways that they are able to follow and work on their undeveloped language skills. Now, the universities, especially if they have a grant, I'll speak, for example, we have a grant at Howard University from the federal government Department of Education. We normally get what we call FLAS, Foreign Language Area Studies. Now, these are not only at Howard, there are many institutions nationwide. A student who comes in can get what we call a fellowship, the FLAS fellowship. For the summer, they get $7,500, and they can go to East Africa, study Swahili. So some of us who have study abroad programs, we do take those students. We also have the academic here, which means you will get $10,000 for tuition. It goes towards your tuition, and you get, I think, $5,000 that goes to you as stipend. Now, a student can get that in addition to whatever other scholarship they have or tuition waiver, whatever they have. We don't look at that and say, oh, you're not going to get this. So what I'm saying is, if our students are able to come in and say, I want to study Swahili, and I want to actually go all the way to minor, that student could potentially get that kind of funding. Let me give you an example also just using Howard. Just last week, we were able to award how many scholarships? Fellowships, about 12 for the academic year, okay? But not just for Swahili, of course, there were other languages, but Swahili has always dominated because we have more students applying for those. For the study abroad, there were 60-something students who applied from Howard to go to study abroad. We were able to give, how many? About 12 to study abroad. We are not the only ones. There are others who are doing that. I mentioned earlier on about Fulbright. Fulbright is a nationwide competition. Any student who wants to study Swahili at the advanced level can apply. How many applications did we get? We got 49 applications across the nation to study Swahili alone. How many scholarships do we have? We have 15. So we have kind of narrowed that pool to 15, and we have, of course, alternate those who are going to study. So if somebody drops out, they're going to be considered. So there are so many scholarships, and what our students can do, including other places, the reason why some of us are here is we were able to get a scholarship to teach Swahili while we studied what it is that we were doing. So there are those centers of African studies, for example, University of Florida, Indiana University, Harvard. Of course, Howard has a graduate program, and we do help one of our students actually who is doing her PhD. She is teaching for us because she can get that funding as well. You go to Yale, you go to Boston, all of these institutions will have that. So I just want to encourage you, as you look at the possible offerings at each institution your child is planning to go to, even you as a, if you want to extend your education, education has no limit in terms of age. Please consider that, and we will certainly support you in that endeavor.
Actually, I'm actually a recipient of class. I
Oh,
was
nice.
at Cornell University,
Mm-hmm.
and I was awarded a class to study Nepali.
Mhm.
Since I spoke Swahili, I couldn't quite qualify for the class.
Uh-huh.
So I entered into Cornell and was able to take the class,
Mhm.
qualified it for the summer and a full graduate year.
Mhm.
So at Cornell, it's just like you were saying, they paid for me to learn Nepali during the summer. They would be paying for me to learn Swahili, and also they paid for me to learn Nepali during the academic year. And I was awarded a fellowship to go through my graduate program, but the FLAS covered everything else, meaning it covered my tuition and my stipend. So I'm glad that FLAS is being offered for the Swahili language, because that means that, people you have no reason to tell me that you can't learn the language. There's federal resources that are out there, and Dr. Mwaka has highlighted that. So this is great to hear.
Let me just add one thing. Some of our students who have come to us, they want to be doctors, and then some of them have had to go with them to East Africa, Tanzania, and then Kenya. What it does, it changes the trajectory. When they see the real situation, they say, I'm changing how I'm going to do my stuff because I see a need here. So this is where, even though they have moved away and maybe they were born here or raised for the most part here, they see the need back in Africa and say, we're going to provide our services there. So because they're now informed, so I think it really helps in terms of career options. We are going to get more people who are well educated and who are willing to really focus on helping our communities. I think you also know about the army, people who go to the army. Sometimes, if they have a foreign language, they actually, sometimes, they do get more money. So that is important for you to know. And some of my students actually took Swahili with that intention. And now they're hired, they live a good life, they meet their needs, they are educated. So I think we want to just say language is a powerful resource that we should all not overlook and think, who needs Swahili? No, we all need Swahili, they need Swahili, all of us need Swahili in a way. So thank you for mentioning that.
So the panel was very informative. I appreciate the diverse range of the topic in terms of the Kiswahili language. My question is specifically considering the statistics that specific Dr. Marco you gave us concerning the institutions that are implementing teaching Kiswahili and just the amount of people in general around the world speaking Kiswahili outside of East Africa where it's originated. How come, at least in my option of what I've seen, how come it's not being translated in terms of career options? It's not being as pushed forward when it comes to learning French or being able to speak Arabic or things like that? Because people, I feel like, prioritize your Spanish or your French because you feel like you're reaching out more people, but I feel like they're not really looking into Kiswahili language. I feel like it's being underestimated or belittled in a sense. So what ways could employers or other institutions push forward using that language when it comes to different career options outside of just linguistics?
Yes. Let me put it this way. Thank you so much for that. Again, it is our government, it is us to make sure that we make this clear that Swahili is an important language. I'll tell you one thing, and I'm sure some of you know. If you come to this country, if you haven't, even though you'll say, I come from Kenya, we speak English, you have to come here, they'll tell you, take this exam, the TOEFL exam. Most of you have done that. And of course, those who went to graduate school know that we have to do GRE. And most of what is contained there, as Professor Boaz was saying, you'll see that it carries a culture of those countries or those, that the community where you're going to. We need to do the same for Swahili. And we have been proposing this in ways that would help us to be able to say, okay, if you want to work in East Africa, you need to know Swahili. And that is the thing. The State Department or the USAID says you have to qualify in this language if you're going to that site. Yeah. So you have to train. I've seen people train. I've helped them, some of them, to be able to do that. We need to foster this and make this a requirement. I didn't mention that, of course, I'm a member of what we call Chaukidu, Chama cha Ukuzaji wa Kiswahili Duniani. I'm the president of that. And what we're trying to do is really to work with governments in East Africa, embassies, and make sure that they do understand we are an important element in terms of whatever we're doing. So your question is valid, and it's high time, for example, Swahili Society America, we need to work together to make sure that when people are saying, now we're going to this particular part of the country or the world, we say, one of the requirements is Swahili. Why not? And if they want to come and study, for example, at our institutions, we have to make it a priority and say, you have to pass this exam before you can be admitted into this. And this is just the right thing to do. Swahili is not just another language. It's a very important language because if you cannot communicate, if we don't have a common language here, there's no way we're going to communicate. I'll give you an example. I went to Mexico the first 1 week. I had a headache because I couldn't speak Spanish. So for the 1.5 years I lived in Mexico, I became very fluent because I realized it was important. And no one would actually tell me anything other than speaking Spanish. They would smile at me if I didn't know what they were saying, but they wouldn't help me. That is how we should look at language and say, anybody can learn a language. We are, as human beings, we have that capacity to learn any language. Even though sometimes we say we have what we call the critical age, which is about 12 years old. But beyond that, you can learn the language. The only thing you may not be able to overcome is an accent, but everybody has an accent. So don't feel shy about these things. Just learn language, it will come. That is how I would say it. So again, we'll make it a requirement, and we just have to work with policymakers. We are working with Akalan. Akalan is Academy of African Languages. We're working, of course, because it's an African Union kind of arm that looks at language and culture. So all governments have subscribed to that. And we do represent, the diaspora in ways of saying, listen, this is important. Do not overlook these languages that we have. And so Swahili is actually one of them. Just the other day, they met in Paris to recognize Swahili as a critical language and as a language of wider communication. So a lot is going on, and I think we just need to put everything together. Yeah.
I would like to have two questions. My name is Amin. I'm from Seattle, Washington. One question for you, Madam. You talk about behavior and mental issues. It just remind me, back in Tanzania, we have an issue about mental issues. The last 3 years ago, I think is one of the journalists from ABC went to Tanzania to talk about albinos. And government of Canada intervened that issues about killing albinos and other elderly people. So what we can do to educate people to eradicate this problem of mental issues of killing maybe albinos or elderly people in Tanzania. That's and how we can associate these issues from here and there to make sure people are aware that mental issue is not a killing. Question number 2 is for Mr. Professor. I just echo one point. When I was in Tanzania, particularly in Zanzibar many years ago, before I migrated to the US, I had initiated one program with the University of Ilham, Indiana, to bring students from America to Tanzania, study Institute of Kiswahili and Foreign Languages. My question to you is, Howard University, do they have the similar program to take students to learn Swahili language and then also associate with culture? As you said, Swahili is culture as well. But I remember very well when I was in Zanzibar, I initiated that program and extended all over to Bagamoyo with a Professor Brent, Professor Nancy Taylor, and I hope you know Mrs. Alwia from University of Indiana. He conducting a program for Kiswahili. It was very successful. But question to you, Howard University does have that programs and how is implemented? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. Mimi naamini kwamba katika matatizo yote ambayo tunapata katika jamii, jambo la kwanza ambalo linaweza kutusaidia kuondokana na hilo tatizo ni elimu. Na tumeona kihistoria Tanzania jinsi ambavyo kipindi wakati magonjwa, for example, ugonjwa wa ukimwi ulivyokuwa umeingia sana, umetapakaa sana, watu walikuwa hawana elimu juu ya ugonjwa. Walikuwa wanawatenga watu ambao wanaumwa, wanawatendea vitu ambavyo sio vizuri kwa sababu wamepata ugonjwa, kwa sababu hawana elimu. Lakini tumeona miaka inavyozidi kwenda, jinsi ambavyo watu wanavyozidi kupata elimu, wanavyozidi kuelewa ugonjwa unahusikana na nini, unavyotibiwa na unavyoambukizwa, watu wakaanza kuelewa kwamba kumbe tunaweza kuendelea kuishi na wenzetu katika jamii zetu, wanaendelea kufanya kazi, wanaendelea kuishi maisha yao, kurudi shuleni, kujijenga kimaisha, bila kuona kwamba kwa sababu wameambukizwa virusi basi maisha yao yameisha. Kwa hiyo mimi nadhani na imani kwamba inaanza inaanza kwenye elimu. Sisi kuwaelimisha wenzetu, kuwaelimisha jamii zetu kuhusu ukweli wa haya mambo, kuhusu albino, kuhusu wazee wanapitia mambo gani as geriatric individuals, watu ambao ni wako kwenye wamefikia umri fulani, wanapitia matatizo gani, wanapitia mambo gani kisaikolojia, kiafya, ambayo sisi mara nyingi watu ambao tuko umri wadogo ama tuko umri wa kati hatuwezi kuelewa kwa sababu hatujafika huko. Kwa hiyo mimi na imani kwamba inaanza kwetu sisi kama watu ambao, for example, sasa kama wewe umelitaja hilo jambo, which means kwamba ni kitu ambacho ni cha muhimu kwako au kimekugusa, na nadhani katika yote hayo, whether ni ugonjwa wa ukimwi ama ni mambo ya kisaikolojia, magonjwa ya kisaikolojia, ni watu ambao wameguswa na hilo jambo kufanya kitu juu yake. Mimi binafsi naamini kwamba again kulizungumzia jambo, kufanya utafiti, kwenda kusoma, na kama nilivyowashauri hapa, kwenda kusoma kuhusu hilo jambo, kuelewa okay, kinachoendelea ni nini, kwa sababu tunaishi kwenye dunia ambayo tuna information, tuna vitu, kila kitu kiko hapa mbele yetu, tunatafuta, unaingia Google unapata kila kitu unachohitaji, as far as kuelewa somo fulani, na kwa hiyo sisi ni jukumu letu sisi kuchukua somo lolote au kitu chochote ambacho tunaona ni cha kwetu, especially kama sisi ambao tunaishi huku nje, kulipeleka nyumbani na kufanya kitu juu yake. Ni moja wa hivyo kitu ambacho tunafanya ni for example ni project ambayo mimi na rafiki yangu nafanya, actually yuko hapa leo, ambao tunakuja pamoja kutengeneza podcast ambayo itaongelea mambo ya kisaikolojia, na tunatumai kwamba hiyo tutaweza kuja kuisambaza nyumbani, kusambaza katika jamii zetu, ili kuweza kuzungumzia haya mambo ambayo sisi tunayapitia, ambayo watu wa Marekani hawawezi kutuelewa kwa sababu hawa hawajatoka Tanzania kuja hapa kuelewa tunachokipitia, na watu wa nyumbani unfortunately pia hawawezi kutuelewa. Kwa hiyo sisi kama Watanzania tunajua tunachokipitia, tunajua ya mambo tunayopitia. Kwa hiyo kila mmoja akisema anafanya sehemu yake, anawaelimisha watu ambao wamezunguka, inabadilisha mambo, ndivyo dunia inavyobadilika. That's what ambacho tunaweza kushauri na kusema.
Yeah. Asante sana kwa swali lako ambalo ni zuri kuhusu programu za Kiswahili Tanzania au tuseme hata Zanzibar. Kwa hivyo tuna program nzuri sana. Chuo Kikuu cha Howard tangu mwaka 2006 kimekuwa kikiwapeleka wanafunzi Afrika Mashariki, na palikuwepo pia na mkataba na Chuo Kikuu cha Suza Zanzibar, ambapo serikali ilikuwa imetoa hela kesi kikubwa tu. Kwa hivyo wanafunzi walikuwa wanakwenda kule, wanaishi kule kwa zaidi ya muhula mmoja, na bado kuna hayo masomo yanaendelea, ila sasa sio serikali inayodhamini hayo masomo, lakini sasa ni wanafunzi wenyewe, na chuo pia kina gharamia baadhi ya zile gharama za huko. So that everybody gets what I'm saying is that we do have a very good summer program, study abroad, which is 6 weeks. It goes to Tanzania and Kenya. So they will be in Tanzania for 4 weeks, and they'll be in Kenya for 2 weeks. This year, for example, hopefully everything goes on well. We already have people who have applied, and the students leave on the 31st of May, and they come back on the 12th of July. What this means is that those are 6 weeks, and anybody can apply to be a part of this program. You can come in as a student at large or a visiting student during this summer. You don't have to be a Howard student. All you need to do is to have that interest, which allows you to really get the language going. So if you think, oh, what is my child going to do during the summer? Hey, talk to me. And we're going to be able to give them a chance to be a part of the program. Whatever level, 0 level, we'll give them the language. When they come back, they have 6 credits. In other words, it can work towards their language requirement in college, and it can also help them. And it's both linguistic and cultural kind of immersion. So wonderfully put. We have a wonderful program. Dr. Aluya Omar is somebody we work with. We work with Suza, we work with Dar es Salaam, we work with Pwani University in Kenya, and all of these institutions, just to make sure that our students are well equipped to know this language, not only by grammar, but also the nuances that come in because of knowing the culture of the people.
Asanteni sana kwa maelezo yenu. Na swali kuhusu ukuaji wa Kiswahili, sababu hapa kama tulivyo Marekani tunasoma Kiingereza na tuna cultural tofauti na Marekani na Tanzania. Kwa hiyo nilikuwa nawaza, are there some things that we can pick up from American? Is it allowed? Is it restricted? Is it okay to blend the two? Sasa ndio vitu kama hivyo nilikuwa sijaelewa, tunaruhusiwa ama turuhusiwa, ama inategemea na familia na ukuaji wa Kiswahili na kuaje. Kama to anybody.
Asante kwa swali hilo. Nafikiri hata pengine wengi wanafikiria kama wanavyofikiria, lakini nafikiri tuna freedom jamani, Yeah, tuna freedom. Kwa hiyo ile freedom tunaitumia, we use that freedom to investigate. to learn. There are no limits as long as you are within the law. Mradi uko katika sheria, basi unatumia uhuru wako. Kwa kujifunza ni muhimu hapa. Sio hakuna sheria kwamba wewe unataka kuinteract na Wamarekani vizuri, then lazima ujue angalau nini mila zao, culture zao. You have to learn about their culture ili wewe sasa ukianza kuinteract pale unakuwa effective kwa sababu unajua. Yeah. Na wewe huku wanao na wewe ni Waswahili mnakutana mnazungumza, then you get a clear understanding, then you can deal with them effectively hapa. Kwa hiyo kuwajua wao na wao kama wanatumia pesa kufahamu wewe, basi interaction ile inakuwa inaboreka. Yale mawasiliano yanakuwa na maana zaidi. Kwa sababu tayari mna listen skills, unaelewa value zao kwamba utakuwa offend na wao hawataka kuoffend wewe, then you can move on in doing business or socialization, whatever you're doing. So I think knowing one another is a key to development.
Kitu muhimu ambacho mimi nafikiri pia unapaswa kuelewa ni utambulisho, kwamba ikiwa umekuja kuishi jamii ya watu ni muhimu sana uelewe, la sivyo utaishi hapa kwa kusononeka. Kwa hivyo lazima ukubali kwamba uko kwa wenyewe. Kuna wengi wamesema tunarudi nyumbani, sasa ni labda muongo mmoja. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri uishi kwa namna hiyo, lakini usivibeze vya kwako. Kwa sababu ukifanya hivyo basi unakuwa hauna ule utambulisho wako. Kumbuka kwamba utambulisho hubadilika ulipo, lakini chukua vizuri vile ambavyo vipo huku na vile vizuri vya kwako vihifadhi. Vile ambavyo unaona vinakuja kuleta mkinzano, jaribu kutumia sasa busara hapo. Ndio hivyo tu.